Well, today we are joined by our good buddy and multiple Emmy person. How many Emmy nominations and how many?
Yeah, dude, how many?
I think this is 8 nominations, one win.
Right.
I think that's 8.
Yes.
Dude, that's a beast.
Well, if you haven't figured it out, it's Jason Thompson.
Jason Thompson, ladies and gentlemen.
Peter Bergman, we were talking about this, and he's like, I think I've had 25 Emmy nominations, and he's like, the truth of the matter, I've lost 23 times. So, or 22 times or whatever it is. But yeah, man, right. You know how it goes. It's it's fun.
That was a pretty good. That was a pretty good impersonation, by the way. that sounded like him. There was something. I don't know. He's got these rounded tones, whereas like
he's very
yes, yeah. So I mean, does it? I imagine it's still exciting, but it's just fun to be part of it. It's just fun to be a part of the crew. Right,
it's super exciting, man. I love it. I mean, truth is, it's always one of those things you dream when you're a little one or you're growing up, and you want to be invited to the party. You want to be kind of somewhat recognized. But I think we've said this before. The last time we talked, there's a little bit of a driving force to just kind of keep doing it, to try and keep showing up, to try and keep doing your best work. It's not always what it's about, but it's part of it for me. I try and show up and do what I can with the material. And when this time of year comes around, you wait and see. And then when you are invited to the party, it's great. And if you're not, it's all good. You just try and earn the next one. And that's kind of what it is for me. So yeah, I totally appreciate it.
So the first thing is you don't try, you do. So let's just stop that word now.
Well, and also, like, growing up, you weren't dreaming of Emmys, you were dreaming of Stanley Cups. So that's different.
Well, it was my version of a Stanley Cup. Yeah. So I was around the Stanley Cup a few times, and I never touched it. In my whole entire, whatever, now it is 16 years, the only Emmy I've ever touched is the one that I got. I never touched. I never touched another Emmy. I remember doing promos, and I was like, "No,
superstition, baby.
It's not mine, man. You gotta earn it yourself. It's not mine,
That's awesome. So, where were you when you got word this time?
It was actually very cool. We were on set. We were working.
Awesome.
So Peter and I were in the middle of a scene, and my phone was in my pocket, and it started buzzing. So I'm like in the middle of the scene, and I'm reaching into my pocket trying to turn my phone off, and then that shuts off. And then how we do, like, because of COVID, we stopped kind of using scripts, and we kind of went to iPads, some of us. So then my iPad is stuffed behind the pillow, and then my iPad's going like, bring, bring, and I'm like, oh no,
man.
But because I'm in the middle of the scene with Mr. Professional, Peter Bergman, he just keeps rolling. So we finished that, and then Matt Kane, our PR dude, comes down, and he's like, everybody, I just like to get everybody's attention. I would like to congratulate Mr. Peter Bergman and Jason Thompson on their lead Emmy nominations for this year's Emmys. I'm like, oh, cool. So it was very, very fun. And then he went around the room, and Melissa Ordway was in the scene with us.
Oh,
Michelle
nice.
Morgan was in the scene with us. Brighton was in the scene. So it was a really fun,
cool,
a lot of us were there. And then we just literally went, we high-fived everybody, gave everybody hugs, and Melissa Ordway's first, so she was really excited. And then we just kept going with our work, which is perfect. It's kind of a nice,
that's how
nice thing to get back to work. Yeah.
Right.
So how did you have 2 rookie moves on 2 devices that weren't turned off?
Dude,
come on.
I don't know. I should be more professional. I dropped the ball on that. I didn't realize it. I was like, oh, that's my mom. That was my mom texting me to say congratulations or whatever.
That's funny.
I was like,
Did you maybe just keep it on because you kind of knew it was Emmy Day and you wanted to?
I swear to you, man, I had no idea that it was even coming down. I was completely shocked when Matt Kane came down and congratulated us, because I was like, oh man, I had no idea that it was that morning. I didn't know. So it was a very kind of pleasant surprise in a lot of ways, for sure. Yeah. I wasn't necessarily expecting the nomination. You never really do, but then even in that moment, it was a surprise. So it was cool.
Yeah, so I love that guy, by the way, Big Matty Kane.
Yeah, he's a gem.
He's an awesome
he's an absolute gem.
Man. He's
he loves you too, Steve. He talks about you all the time. So
he really watches out for the talent, which is
really does,
which is really cool. So shout out to Big Matty Kane.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing. How, like, the process in the building now, like, versus when when you were submitting episodes, whether it was the single episode or the multiple episodes in
Right.
the back, in years past, versus now, like basically a reel, a 2021 reel, like it now, because on set, because I know some shows, I don't want to say organize a little bit more around it, but I think some people, like, there is a like, hey, this is the time of year, like, what are you thinking, what are you thinking, what are you thinking? When you're doing reels, is it easier in that regard to be like, oh, when you had that scene that like that's, or versus like, hey, that was a great episode? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
is
no,
it
absolutely. I do. Yeah, it is different because I think if I remember correctly, it was like you could have like 10 minutes of maybe pull from 2 episodes. Now it's like 15 minutes, whatever you want to throw up there.
right?
Which I mean, it's always, you guys know, it's always a little bit of a stressful time trying to find the right thing, trying to like pull something together. It's like, you're kind of going back in time. You're looking at your stuff thinking like, oh man, that could have been different, or oh, that was weird, or oh, that one worked, or whatever. Every once in a while, you're like, oh, that was actually pretty cool.
Or you think, oh gosh, that scene that I remember filming, that I was great in that, and then you watch that and you're like, oh, actually, that wasn't that great.
I was very wrong about that scene.
That's why you never go on feelings, because sometimes you feel like, oh, that was amazing, and then you look at it and 7 months later, like, that wasn't amazing at all. But Jason, do you document, like, I remember Jill always told me with A. Martinez, which I always give A props for this because I love A. He would always, if he felt like it was a show, he'd always write the show number down, right? Because each show, I believe, has their own process on helping their actors find material, right?
True.
Like we have Elizabeth Cordy at GH, where she would go, hey, Steve, I think these shows are good shows for you. And then they'd pull them, and then I'd look, and then you're just going down kind of the rabbit hole that way. What's the process for you personally? Do you document it at all? And how do they help you there?
Well, they help in the same kind of way. Just like, hey, these are the episodes that we think that were kind of more poignant storylines or whatever. And then I kind of go on feel a little bit as well. It's like, I remember that felt good. I remember having a really good connection with the other actor or actress or whatever you want to call it. And it seemed to work in the moment. And then I kind of started watching it. And then I think in today's process, I try and build a little bit of a story. I still kind of go on story. I don't just throw a bunch of stuff up there and have like, 5 different scenes from different episodes that kind of work. But, the year that I won a couple of years ago, that was 1 episode. So that was a little bit easier. And it was like more of a standalone episode. So I was like, all right, that's the one, live or die by it. Go for it. Peter was talking about his scene where he was very quiet and it just felt good. And he's like, I really liked what that was. Nomination or not, that's what I'm submitting. So I think it's different for everyone. This one was like, I really liked what I was doing there. I played it. And then once I started watching 25 minutes of a chunk of stuff, I kind of dialed it in and said, okay, there's some things there. Let's just submit it, because you never know, right? You know that. I mean,
you just don't know.
I still want to feel good about what I'm submitting. And because it's still a long game. Like, you're still putting yourself out there in a way, and people are seeing it. And it's still something that means a lot to you, but I don't want to get too caught up in like trying to chase the thing. You still want to feel good about what you're doing. And the other thing I realized every time I do this, not that we need the reminder, but it's always good for the reminders, just how hard it is to get that stuff all working. You need your writing, you need your directing, you need your partner, you need all that stuff. You need your light, you need not a boom shadow going across, because that stuff happens. It's just, you see it and you're like, wow, man, there's a lot of pieces that need to come together to make the scene,
Totally.
Yeah. So there's 2 things there. That one, Jason, is it, because we do move so fast, right?
Yeah.
It's like, for a movie, if it's a Academy Award nominated actor, I'm sure a lot of times they have way more time than we do, right? On daytime. And you're right, all those things have to fall into place perfectly. And then to kind of circle back to what Bradford said, like, I don't know if head writers anymore kind of plan story for people to get them their material, because back in the day it was a show or 2 shows, right? So in the 90s or the 80s or even late 70s, they probably wrote Tony Geary, for example, 2 shows, go, oh, he's going to crush it here, right? or Maurice, oh, he's going to kill it here. Or so, and I'm sure other shows did the same thing. They looked out for their actors and try to give them as much, leg up on material as they probably could. But I don't know if it's the same nowadays. Like, I don't really think, I mean, in my opinion, it's probably not. That's why I do appreciate the process now where you can kind of put together a sizzle reel of all your work. So, I know there's evolution in things, and I think that's kind of where we're at now, and it's okay. But I just don't know if writers do like think that way anymore, or networks.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that they sit down and say, okay, this is going to be, Steve's Emmy episode. And, then, and if you don't do well, you're done. You don't get another one. It's like, well, he didn't take advantage of that episode.
We're not trying that again.
But the truth is, and again, you know this, it's bigger than that. The show, everything is bigger than that one episode. But it is nice when you do get that full episode, when you got the range and you're all over the place and you're able to play and have fun, and everybody kind of knows it's like, okay, this is your stuff here. How can I help? What can we do, to kind of make this feel good for you and everything. But yeah, you're right. There's always evolution. That's what we do best, though. I mean, that's what daytime does best. Whether it's going digital, how many years ago, we kind of paved the way for that, putting things up there, content. I mean, we're the king of content. There's nobody that does content like us. Yeah. So 100%. There's always evolution.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the speaking of content, I'm just curious, is the digital, the CBS or YNR digital game, is that, are you guys participating in off broadcast creative stuff over there?
I don't know, like kind of like
I know B&B did a bunch of stuff.
B&B, yeah, I don't know. I kind of heard rumblings that they might be looking at doing some stuff on the Paramount app. That's what we're on right now. So, I mean, I think it'd be great. I mean, go back to Night Shift, right? We were all on that. I mean, that was kind of the first time that happened too.
Yeah, and then I just did that Beyond Salem for days.
Exactly.
And that's what they're doing on Peacock often, and it's a no-brainer, dude. It's a no-brainer, right? It's money on the table. It's great content for the fans. It works for you guys, it works for Paramount, it works for whatever, Peacock, NBC, and it's just a great synergy that is the future of things.
Right. And when you think about what it takes to go into developing characters and things like that, and how long, I mean, these characters are already developed, you just put them in a different setting and give them a different time slot, and it's like, go ahead, so or you don't even need a time slot, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I don't know, I think we're working on something, but I don't know. I just kind of heard that. I don't want to say anything
of course,
or less, but I think it would be great, because just to that point, I think that it's a no-brainer.
Well, it's interesting because the thing is, I'm talking too much today because I've had so much freaking coffee, dude.
Dude, it's great.
Jason, you don't even know how much coffee I've had today. I can't even tell you. But what's interesting is talking about this business with you guys, because you've been in the business a long time also. So it's like, I remember when we were on GH, we would do a primetime movie, right? We would do a movie of the week based on GH. Same thing, same writers, same characters. Hey, we drew an audience, right? And then for a long time,
I'm sorry, I don't remember. I was never part of that, and I don't.
No, I wasn't, but that sounds amazing.
I don't recall ever talking about that either. What?
Yeah. Guys, so they did a movie of the week essentially for primetime.
How often?
It was a couple times. I know it was Maurice. It was so funny, dude. So this is the best. This is the best story. Maurice Bernard, we all know him as being a great actor and a method actor, right? So it was Sonny and Brenda at the time. That was the big couple and whatever was happening there. I can't even freaking remember if I was in it or not. But Maurice, he had to play that he was drugged, right? Like he got shot up with heroin or something. And then they wrote him all these monologues. And he's like, do you know someone on heroin is not doing monologues? Right. Amazing. So he's sitting there on the couch. They had to cut all his stuff and give it to Vanessa. So it was just, but the value was that we had a big audience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And then we can go to prime time, just like we did with Night Shift years later. Right. And then there was a dry spell because, you know, daytime was losing ratings and not getting new viewers and all this stuff. Now they're seeing how valuable and our fan base is and how loyal our fan base is to now take this and go to Paramount and take this and go to Peacock and do what Bradford and I are doing and go on the road and do these podcasts because the fan base is there. And they
don't you think
this, and all they've wanted is content.
Yeah,
well,
no,
I think
sure.
part of it is the metrics have changed, right? When you're looking at
100%.
when you're on SoapNet and you're comparing SoapNet ratings to broadcast ratings, and the only thing that you have is like, hey, we're putting this on a TV channel.
Yeah.
So these ratings must equal this in order for it to be profitable or whatever. But now the metrics have changed because you're talking about streaming and you're talking about like, I just feel like when you looked at our viewership on broadcast on SoapNet or wherever you were putting it, you were comparing it, you were apples to apples with it. Do you know what I mean? And now, now it doesn't matter. It's like numbers on Peacock, numbers on whatever, like, and especially now because it's on demand, like those things have changed. I feel like we're not looking at such a small spectrum of numbers here where our numbers didn't match up to Grey's Anatomy, so it didn't matter.
Right.
And it's also twofold in my opinion as well, because you have the digital and yet we're still on the channel. We're still on the TV for people that still have the 6-7 channels, you know, that's still there as well. Yes. So you're kind of double dipping a little bit, which 100%. Is another reason why it's a no brainer, let alone for a place like whether it's Peacock or Paramount. When you get those viewers, we all watch digital, the amount that you get to promote other shows on your platform just by simply scrolling and doing all that, that's unheard of as well.
Yeah,
so
it's a monster.
Getting eyeballs there, and but even still, like, I mean, yes, the numbers aren't the same as they were back in the day, but it has changed so drastically that it's you can't compare apples to apples, like you just said. But when you look at daytime numbers, they're still pretty fantastic when you compare them to primetime numbers that are on any sort of platform or whatever. They're usually higher, especially when you add up at the end of a week, when you got 5 days. I mean, it's still there. And that's, you know, our fan base. We have them to thank for that because they just continue to keep showing up, which is incredible.
100%.
Well, I wonder if whether it's Beyond Salem or some other, like, because we've always asked ourselves, when is somebody that makes decisions and is looking for audience and is looking for, you know, like, why do they make 18 Marvel movies? Is because they have a built-in audience. Well, what other things have a built-in audience on different scales, perhaps? But like, you know, when people are looking to make something, they want as much of a sure thing as they can get, right? Obviously. And so like when they look at numbers from whatever, I'm not sure Peacock probably will share their numbers. Like
they will. They will.
I wonder who, I wonder, is this the moment where we're like, people will understand the value of what we do?
Probably not. Probably not. Because as you know, being in the business and being in business, it's always a convincing job.
Yeah.
You always have to convince people outside of what we do how valuable our fans are, and they don't get it. Like there's no, I think they're starting to get it, like you're saying, but it still could be another 5 years where they go, hey, why don't we put Steve Burton, Jason Thompson, and Bradford Anderson in a Hallmark movie? Yeah. Because we know we're going to get 500,000 people to 1 million people to watch it immediately. Like, it seems like a no-brainer to me.
Well, especially Jason Thompson, because he's on the #1 daytime show.
Well, and he's #1. Like, he's the number one. He's
You're
number
one
in Canada. He's
You're number one.
You're number one.
I don't know.
You're number.
Well, no, but it's true though, man. There's something to that, and it is, you know, we all have that feeling. We're like, come on, we know the value we bring. We know how. The other thing that I see changing is just the way that they shoot all these shows, thanks to the process that we go through every single day. We know, I've talked to friends that are in primetime, whatever, they're going faster. They're moving along. They're doing less takes. They're doing a couple more cameras. That is changing because of the process that we've been doing for 50 years, you know? So we keep kind of paving a little bit of the road for everyone. And then, you know, but that's the way it is, man. It's, I think we're all very stoked and always grateful to be in this business because of what we do, because of the process because of how quickly we do it. Like, you know, we're so used to it now that sitting around in a trailer for 6 hours to get the light right seems like that's insane to me. You know?
Waste of time.
It's a great waste of time. Yeah.
Totally.
You know, so, but hey, man, we're, you know, we still gotta show up and do the work and continue to prove ourselves. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that if you continue to take that opportunity and accept the challenge, that's what makes it fun. You know, that's the part of it that I really still get off on is the challenge of trying to prove the value of what we do every day. I take great responsibility in trying to put our best foot forward.
And that's
how
why
I go to work. So
yeah, and I think that's why people are starting to notice.
Yeah.
Even though it's 50 years.
Yeah.
Right. It's the tortoise and the hare for sure. It's like, keep doing it, keep freaking digging deep, keep doing your best job every single day.
Well, it's not on our time. We don't get to control that kind of stuff. Like I talk about that with my kids. I'm like, I get it, man. You have this big idea that you want to have happen. It might not happen today, might not happen next week, but that's, you know, that's still part of the process. You know, you can't get too aggravated by it not happening on the time that you want it to happen on. That's just the way it goes.
I mean, you focus on the
delayed
process.
gratification. What?
Delayed gratification.
Yeah.
So, all right. I know you're at work, so we're gonna ask you a few more questions, Jason. First of all, how's the family life? How's everything going?
It's good, man. It's cool. We beginning of COVID, we didn't know how long that was going to go, whatever. But we bought not an old Sprinter van, but we bought a Sprinter van and converted it to a camper. So we spent a lot of time in that. Last weekend, we were just away the weekend before. We were camping for a lot of the initial COVID shutdown in a tent, and we're like, all right, well, this is good. We enjoyed it here. The kids are doing great, so let's just kind of up it a little bit. And so we spend a lot of time in that. Kids are cool, finishing up school this next couple weeks, and
yeah, buddy,
you know, they're good. My wife is fantastic, and family life is all right, man.
Living the hashtag van life.
That's right, dude.
Yeah. Well, not too far. Well, I don't want to go too far down that van life. I still like having a home, believe me.
And things that YNR are good. I mean, what is your character into these days? I mean, in the storylines that you ended up submitting, how are they so far in the past that they're not relevant anymore? Or is it, what's getting you going there?
Not really. I mean, it's still somewhat relevant. There's still trickles of that storyline that I'm still dealing with, let's say. You know, Billy is in the big picture, schedule-wise, it's been a little bit of a slower couple months for me, which is, you know, the way it goes. It goes up and down.
Oh,
sure. I appreciate that. I have a little bit more time with the family to do other stuff. But as far as like Billy doing his thing, I think he's trying to figure some things out. He's working with Chancellor Winters, which is a new kind of conglomerate that is mixing up a little bit of the families, which is great. I'm working with Crystal, who's amazing, and she's super fun. The best thing about my character, man, to be honest, is just the amount that he gets to bounce around. Like he's not really put in a box.
That's awesome.
He plays around with everyone. He's kind of all over the place, and I've always appreciated that. I you know, I was talking to Josh, our head writer, a couple of days ago. I'm like, you know me, man. You're not really going to hear that. I don't think my character would do that. I'm a little bit more like, all right, let's figure it out. I think we've talked about this before. Yeah, I will go all over the place, so then I can come around, and then you never really know. Like he's not going to do something. The character's always capable of doing something, whether it's going crazy or being intimate or being, you know, very. Whether it's sympathetic or whatever it might be, he's capable of doing it, which I enjoy. So I'm always looking forward to seeing what he's getting into next, and it's no different now. We'll see what comes up, but right now I've got a podcast.
Billy has
a podcast. Yeah.
And what's that about?
I'm not sure yet. It's been a couple months. Is
there anything, what is compelling about filming a fake podcast? I'm like, how do they make it compelling?
It's funny you say that, because I think that's not a question that's a question that some people are asking. You know, I mean, look, I'll say it personally. I enjoy it because it's fun. I get to take this material and try and make it work again. And you know how frustrating it is when you think it might not. And it's like, you take that personally. Like I take it very personal. I'm like, this is not gonna work. How do I make this work? And you don't know if it does or whatever, but yeah, I mean, you know, he talks about his feelings a lot, and then he's got another podcast called the Grinning Soul, where he basically,
wait, there's 2 podcasts?
Yeah, I've got 2 podcasts. I got an alter ego that nobody knows that it's me, and I get to talk about things that, like, you know, really, you know, like people that are power grabbers, people that, you know, it's almost that like pump up the volume kind of thing.
Yeah.
He talks about topics that are, you know, within the city, but nobody knows it's him. So
you're under a pseudonym of sorts?
Yes, exactly.
And is your voice
Yes,
changed?
the voice is a little, distorted.
Now
it's distorted, or is that, I was gonna say, is that coming out of you, or is that like a you know, we'll do that in post?
Well, it's a little bit. I mean, I turn it on a little bit, but it's mostly in post. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about, I'm like, I'm not going to come up with some accent. All of a sudden, he's not like, this is the pre, like, it's not going to happen. So,
or
we got
like Batman.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like that. But again, man, it just goes back to like, hey, I'm not saying no. I'm going to say, hey, figure it out. Let's figure out how to try to do it.
Well, I mean, it worked in Frasier. It worked in WKRP in Cincinnati. It's worked on television before where you have radio personalities or whatever, you know, and there's a clip of whatever they do. And like, so they're it's not like, I get it.
Yeah. It was actually funny. Peter came up a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, oh, I'm glad I found you. He's like, I've told, I don't know, 15 people about this, but I haven't actually told you. I was watching with a friend. I turned it on for a second, and I saw this episode of you in this podcast, and I have to say, I was absolutely one of the people thinking like, this cannot be very compelling, watching somebody sit in front of a microphone and talk about this. He's like, but you made me understand that character more in that one episode about what he's been through than I've watched in like 20 years of being able to watch you talk about the things, the processes, the things that he's been through, and how he's gotten to this place in his life. He's like, so, you know, you never know, but some people resonate with it. Some people don't. We know that. We see our Twitter. Some people like it. Some people don't. That's the way it goes.
Well, it's interesting because, well, I mean, you know,
go ahead.
In our medium, we do have sometimes soliloquies of sorts where we're having a long monologue that is maybe to ourselves. And you're like, people don't actually do this, but giving you that mechanism of like, hey, he's not sitting on a park bench looking off into the ether talking about how he's feeling. He's got a reason to deliver this.
I love that.
That actually is I never thought about it that way, because not knowing what he was talking about, hearing a little bit about it, I see it as a cool mechanism versus, like, I remember the times that I was on the Soup in the old days is because I was wandering around a movie theater. I was wandering around a movie theater lobby doing cross promotion for the Avengers, talking about my own life, being like, what would the Avengers do? Well, Iron Man would do this. And I wasn't talking to anybody. I was talking to myself.
You'd be, you know, a crazy person a little bit.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But if I had a podcast and I was trying to work through my feelings to an audience, like, that actually is a cool mechanism.
I think there's been moments, and the other thing that's kind of worked, in my opinion, some of the things that I've watched back, is that you see Billy doing this, and you're talking about insecurities, you're talking about all these things, and then it kind of plays over other characters that are going through other things. You get the comments. It's like, you know, the voiceover, like you said, it's a tool, right? You know, it's a tool to kind of get across whatever. And my acting teacher used to say, really, dialogue are thoughts that you decide to share. So if you're sitting on a park bench, you're not necessarily sharing your thoughts to anyone. You know, these are thoughts that you then choose to share with someone. That's what dialogue is to a certain extent. Well, the difference with what this podcast is that it's that platform to be able to take your thoughts and share them out loud, basically. So again, it's figuring it out, trying to make it work.
Well, because the assumption is that people are listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So then it's fine.
Yeah.
Then it makes it okay. You can say whatever you want. you know, oh,
is his intention to reach certain people that he thinks might be listening, or is it just a release for him?
No, it's a little bit of both. I think that he talks about how like cathartic it is for him to be able to say this kind of stuff out loud and to be able to kind of, you know, dig deep and figure out why anything, why he feels the way he does, why he's made mistakes, the things that he's done. But also he says, look, if I can connect with one person that might not feel alone or might not feel like they're you know, they're a bad person, or they're just constantly making mistakes because of things that happened to them in the past or whatever it might be, or they can't make a relationship work because whatever faults that they feel like they have, then that's good. That's okay. My job. That's what I've been able to do. And so it is and then the difference is with the other one, the pseudonym one, is that he gets to basically try and take down the powers that be that are constantly kind of gaining the system, you know, because I do feel like Billy is he's an honest guy. Like you know, he's not a liar. He's not really a deceiver. He toes the line, but I mean, he's also not scared to kind of speak out and tell the truth. And whatever happens with that truth happens. You know, he gets himself in trouble that way, but he's not really a deceiver. And I think it's part of this. Like that's where this podcast, I feel like for me, works well, because I get to kind of tell the truth. Now with the pseudonym, it's not so much attention on me. You know, I'm not going to have people coming after my kids. I'm not going to have people coming after my family or trying to take my business away because defamation lawsuit or something. So that's kind of where the pseudonym comes in. But anyway, that's what I've been up to a little bit. Right.
So what's the name of the podcast? The
Grinning Soul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that the real one, or is that the
fake one or the real one?
Yeah, is that
the fake one?
Okay. And Billy's the one where Billy is Billy, not the pseudonym.
Chatting with Billy. No, I don't know. That one doesn't have a name. So,
oh man,
I don't know what it is. I think it's
has it maybe inspired Jason to do anything like that?
Oh man, I would love to. I love talking. I love doing things like this. I would love to do something like that. I mean, you know, Josh Moore and I have talked about that before, because he's just a hilarious guy, and we have funny conversations. They always go funny places. I would absolutely love to do something like that. I don't necessarily know what the premises would be, and I'm not sure that we, you know, it'd be hard to develop and all that kind of stuff. But I do really enjoy doing these kind of things. I love chatting. I love picking away at things, trying to understand processes and all that stuff. So
yeah, the first thing is you have to get Josh out of his house. That's number one.
I know that's not going to happen. I said, well, what do we do? I can come to you. I can make my Sprinter recording studio. I'll just park in your driveway.
There you go. We've actually thought about that.
Yeah, is that right?
Brad? We thought about doing that.
Having a mobile. Well, yeah, pre-pandemic, we were like, we need to mobilize this. And now Zoom is just so normalized that you don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Dude, awesome,
but no, because this is, I think, the second time we've done this with you, and yeah, you're very good at it.
Well, you know, it's all about the host. If the host keeps going, no, I appreciate it, but I mean, I would enjoy doing it. I love doing these kind of things, these interviews and everything else. They're fun.
That's awesome, man.
Well, if we can give you more opportunities, we will.
Let us know.
For you.
Let us know.
You let me know.
Well, congrats on your
brother.
8th
You're a beast.
Nomination, and rooting for you in all ways, as always.
Yes, buddy.
Appreciate it, boys. Appreciate it very much.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah,
tell everybody I said hello.
I will for sure. I think Maddie Kane just knocked on my door. So
he did? Is Kai still there? Is Kai doing camera still?
Oh, that is Maddie Kane, because he just heard me. You want to say hi?
Well, yeah, just we could cut it off here.
Okay.
Okay.